Workday has built itself up in a certain direction over the years, where now it's leaning more towards wanting to become a platform tool.
If you've ever felt stuck as the Workday person, this episode is for you. Melissa Chonka has been in the Workday ecosystem since 2009. She's worked partner side, customer side, and today she's Director of People Tech at Expedia Group. And she's one of those rare people who stayed in this space for nearly 2 decades without losing her spark. In this conversation, Melissa gets real about what burnout actually is and why it's usually not Workday. How great leaders can build better rapport and trust with their teams, what Workday's platform shift really means for customers, and why most executives asking for AI really mean automation. And fair warning, her story about transporting rescue dogs might just hit you in the gut. So let's get into it. Well, we are so excited for this next episode of Wave Makers. Today's guest is Melissa Chonka, who has been actually in the ecosystem since 2009. Melissa has been on the partner side and she's been on the customer side and just brings a wealth of knowledge and industry experience. And we are so excited. Melissa is currently the Director of People Tech over at Expedia Group. So, Melissa, thank you so much for being here. We were really excited to have you on today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yes, you did correct me. 2009. That's just wow. That is a long time. You have seen some
It is.
changes.
I certainly have. It's been a wild ride. Yeah, 2009 to what are we in 2026? So it's
2026.
I'm
been
trying to think
17
about like what I was
years.
Oh my
doing,
gosh.
just
And
even
it's
2009 in general. I mean,
yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard to
I was back in
remember.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's interesting. Uh, wow.
Wow. Yeah.
It's and so I was gonna just kind of start out as you have seen the ecosystem evolve and all the
Yes.
changes and as we kind of dive in, how do you keep that excitement going and motivation and energy for being in this industry for so long?
For me, I just really love it. Like I have loved not only Workday but HR technology for so long. And it just continues to evolve. Workday was fresh and new in 2009. Now, like Workday Illuminate and everything AI is fresh and new. And you just keep growing with all the different things that change and evolve in just the technology landscape. Um, so partly it's the technology, partly it's just the people I've been able to work with. I've been able to lead some incredible teams, including my current team here at Expedia Group. And I have made some phenomenal friendships throughout the course of the years. It's been really just a joyful journey for me. And it's blessed me in just a variety of ways that it just keeps me coming back for more. Just
Nice.
always, I'm never someone who has Sunday scaries. I love showing up to work every Monday and, dealing with whatever
Did
is
you
in
do
front of me.
other or did you do
Yes.
other HR tech before getting into Workday?
So, interestingly, my bachelor's degree is in management information systems, and I
Oh,
actually did
wow.
web development
Mm.
for a pharmaceutical company right out of college. Somehow ended up in HR. I don't exactly remember how I ended up in HR, but I did. So I did web development, and then now my team that I lead is responsible for ServiceNow, AWS, and Workday. So I am able to, learn and understand about each of those
Oh, good.
technologies as well. So
Always learning.
yeah, always learning. Yeah, you don't see my room now, but I'm just surrounded by books.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna go
I
there.
am someone who just, okay. I was gonna say, I'm just
I
someone
know
who
you're an
loves to
avid
just
reader, but
learn and,
yeah.
I
as
love
much
it.
as I
I love it
can.
that you just
So
like you know, watching how people's careers evolve and how they end up somewhere, completely different from where they started. It's just, I love that.
yeah.
So
Yeah, me too. And I've been, I think what has worked for me is that I've just always been open to it. Like I have never had a career plan. Like I'm gonna just say it out. Some people have a 3, 5 year, 10, they want to do this. That is not me. Melissa hasn't had the slightest idea, in some cases, what she's wanted to do over the years. But I've just let it ebb and flow, and I've just followed where it's led me. There's this lyric in a Pearl Jam song that's like, I'll ride the wave where it takes me, and that's what I've done with my career, and it's truly just been phenomenal,
I
in
love
what it's
it.
given to me.
And she threw out the wave,
Yeah.
the whole Workday
That's
wave,
the
which
whole
is
Workday
The
the
whole
way.
Workday
tagline
wave.
that we
Yeah.
have. So,
Yeah. Exactly.
okay, and
Yep.
I'm a
Yep.
music
Yep.
person, so I'm going to have to know what song exactly that is by Pearl Jam after this
It's
podcast.
Release. The song
Release.
Release.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will remember that one.
I love it.
That's funny. Riding that wave.
Yes. Yep.
Well, and just to piggyback that, because we talk to people all day long that have been in the ecosystem a long time,
Mhm.
and just a question, for those that maybe are feeling, I guess, not as motivated or a little burned
Mhm.
out, or just what's next. What kind of advice do you have for them? If they're not feeling or figuring out what path to take next.
Yeah, I think a lot of times the burnout comes from always being considered the workday person. And
Mm,
that sometimes becomes your identity, and you get stuck in that mold. And you're always, always the person who either your company or your friends or whomever go to because workday, this.
mm,
And you have to figure out how to break yourself out of that. It's okay. You can be the best workday person you can be for the entirety of your career, because it's going to take you, in 10 different directions if you allow it to. You have to embrace the change. You have to embrace the technology and where it's going. Learn how to learn how to code an extend app. Figure out orchestrate. Understand all this cool technology that Workday seems to be purchasing, like Hire Right, Paradox, Adaptive. Jump into those, and that's what keeps you fresh and learning. And if you want to break out of being the Workday person, because for the people that I've known, that tends to be where they burn out. It's just they're always the go-to Workday person because they've gone so deep. Figure out how to break out of it. That's what I did when I accepted this role at my current company. I loved Workday, but I
Mhm.
wanted to do a little bit more too. And this role gave me the opportunity, to lean into some ServiceNow experience that I had at my last company, and plus build out data engineering as
mm,
well. And that is probably like one of the first times I was really strategic about my career, and like, okay, I was a little, I faced that burnout a little bit of being the Workday person, but I still loved Workday, but I wanted to do just a little bit more. So I figured out a path to get that little
That
bit
makes
more.
sense.
nice. Well, I know we were
We are rusty.
the as far as technology. No, I was waiting
I've
on
sunned you
the.
into
No,
silence.
well,
Yeah.
I'll keep going. I have no problem. I'll keep going. I know Carla was going to hit on the AI
No,
piece,
I
but
actually I had another
Oh,
or
question in
okay.
this
public
section though.
cloud,
All
or
right, are we going back to that then?
well, I don't know. We're just talking. I didn't know if you were popping in
All right, I have a
with
question.
technology and AI or cloud and
All
whatever
right, I've got a
you
question
hit
Give
actually.
on.
it
So, all
all.
right,
Give it
given that
all.
you've been in the ecosystem for
Yeah.
ever. I mean, where do
Yeah.
you think we are from a life cycle perspective?
Mm,
And, it was something that I kind of fell into last year. I was doing some research on some stuff, and AI was giving me all this additional, this is how Salesforce went through theirs, it's how SAP went through
Yeah.
theirs, and it was kind of comparing it to where Workday is. And because people ask all the time,
Yeah.
is this going to last? And obviously you just hit on expand
Mhm.
outside of just Workday, but kind of what are your thoughts on where we
Yeah.
are as far as a life cycle of this product?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. I think we are in a period of reckoning, to be
mm,
honest. I think Workday has built itself up in a certain direction over the years, where now it's leaning more towards wanting to become a platform tool. So that's why you see the purchases of the company that it has purchased, because it is leaning into wanting to be a platform, at least in my opinion. I
Right.
believe they've said that too, but at least that's what I'm seeing. And I think we're at that reckoning because it's this moment where it's taking it from point A to point B. and they have opened up the ecosystem. It used to be a very closed ecosystem. They've opened it up. They've introduced all new partners. They've introduced new companies through the various technologies. And I think they have the opportunity to just keep elevating the Workday platform to a really incredible place. But they have to recognize where their customers are too. Not every customer can buy every tool at every single moment that it comes out. Like you still have your small or your medium enterprise customers who don't have millions upon millions of dollars to invest in a tool,
Right.
who need Workday at its core to be the best that it can be.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to see them not invest there in favor of investing in acquisitions and acquiring technology um, in that way.
No,
So that's why I think it's a little bit of
I
a
love that
reckoning
you've used
of who they
reckoning
want to
Interesting.
with
be.
that
Yeah.
because, and it's funny that you mentioned that with
Yeah.
Workday customers. The last compensation survey that we did, we always did kind of a good, bad, and ugly, And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things everyone said that they didn't like about where Workday was headed was, finish up the core, go back to your core modules and make them better.
Yeah.
Pay attention to our brainstorms, and they completely got rid of those, right?
Yes.
So people
Yes.
were all about
Yep.
that. So that's really interesting. And I mean, we kind of joke a little bit that,
Yeah.
everybody's a partner now, right? But I mean, so
That's what it
Workday
feels
is
like.
relying
Yeah.
really heavily on partners to build the connectors, build to supplement what they are not doing, it seems
Yes.
like. And I think they admit that.
Yep.
So that's good because there
Yes.
really
Yeah.
are some amazing solutions, creative things that are out there. Um, but I like the word reckoning. That's good.
There really are. Yeah. And I think that, I think AI, everyone's favorite buzzword, caught a lot of people by surprise. AI has always been there. Like I worked at IBM when they were introducing the Watson tool, and they did some really cool things in their HR space. And that was in probably 2016. So that was 10 years ago now. Um, so they were on the forefront of it, but no one else was there. And AI has just exploded. And I think it's caught a lot of people by surprise, including some companies where they are abandoning maybe their core products to hire the companies that are doing the technology because
Right.
they can't catch up to it. Um, but I want very much like you, I want the core product to be great, like, and to get us over the finish line of the things that we need to do just to function as like an HR or a people organization,
Mm-hmm.
or a finance organization if we're talking about Workday Finance. And that's what they have to, I think,
Yeah.
figure out a little bit.
Well, since you
So
mentioned it, because it is by law, we have to talk about AI
yeah,
at some point.
of
Right.
I think
course,
we
Every
of
have
course,
conversation,
to.
every podcast.
We won't talk about it Workday
yeah, yeah,
specifically, since we all needed a little bit of a break from Rising.
yeah,
But AI in general. So, like you said, it's just taken us, all by storm. How are you handling it as a leader
yeah.
with, internally with, the company or your team, or how are you approaching it?
Yeah, and that's definitely a good way to approach it because everybody does want to use it. I'm sure you're using it in your day-to-day life. I use it and I love AI. Like I think
Absolutely.
it's like the best thing ever. Um and what I encourage my team to do is embrace the technology that we have for AI. We have certain tools that we're using internally. Um and we actually had a hackathon for our team to just build
Oh,
whatever you
fun.
can with AI. We didn't care what it was. Try to solve a problem that you have. We had an AI playground, and my team built this really cool stuff. Like one person built an app for travel, like for travel itineraries, which was really cool. Another built like some sort of database. I'm not exactly remembering what it was, but they built a database. But like for me with AI, I encourage people to play around with it so you can understand it and not be afraid with
Mm-hmm.
it. Figure out how to do prompt engineering. There is this phenomenal book
Yes.
out there. Can I quote an author?
Sure.
Okay. There is this phenomenal book out there that is, I'm looking for it. It might be on my desk. It is, What is it
I think I
called?
know which one you're talking
Hold
about.
on. I just
I
got to
saw you
find
write
it.
about
Oh,
it. Yes.
it's
Yes.
this one. Yes, it's the AI Driven Leader by Jeff Woods. Probably one of the best books I read in 2025 because it teaches you how to think about using AI to leverage it in a way that allows you to work more, work a little bit smarter, right? Use the technology to help you solve problems, but don't let it solve the problem for you. Like prompt it so that you know what you want it to do. Like that, if everyone could read that book, I think they would truly embrace AI and understand that it can, what it can and cannot do
Right.
for you, because it cannot do everything.
Mhm.
Um, and the other thing I think about AI is we say AI, but I think a lot of people, when they say AI, they actually mean automation. Like they want to automate processes. They want to make things easier to do, and they want really good employee or user experiences. And AI is sort of just the bucket of that. But you can, there's other things you can use with automation, like you can use RPAs to build a bot to do certain things for you. And that is where I think people are trying to figure out what AI can do for them. You know, and but learn to embrace it.
Mhm.
So, a
Yes.
can I tell a funny story? I don't know if it's a
Yes, we're
funny
all
story. I'm
about
just going to tell a
stories.
story.
That's
Okay, I'm just going to it's AI related. So, in my outside of work life, one of the things I love to do is jigsaw puzzles. Okay, and uh, and I love it because it introduced you to all these amazing artists, right? Like these artists that you wouldn't maybe necessarily see
Right.
unless you go to a museum or something. And I love it for that. But there's also a lot of puzzles that are made with AI images. And there's a little bit of a controversy. Controversy might not be the right word, but there's definitely strong opinions about how puzzle imagery should only be artists who are human. And, you know, and then there is puzzle and not using AI images, and then how puzzle companies, you know, distinguish, you know, who to the consumer who is AI, who is not. I am somewhere in the middle. I see how cool AI can do, really neat things, and you know, some of the images I've asked it to create. I mean, you know, I've got the best images of my dogs because of it. But I get the, you know, I would be so sad if it all became AI technology, because there are just some incredible artists out there
yeah.
that I have found just
Of
through
all things.
jigsaw
Yeah.
puzzles of all the randomest things.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I
So
Well,
definitely,
and
I don't know if
being
that's a good
I kind
story,
of feel
but
that same way. It's,
yeah.
and I always say in an AI generated world, you know, that
Yeah.
your brand, your story, your authenticity is what is so key. And
Yeah.
it's, everything doesn't need to be an AI in a generated image. You know, so
It
many
doesn't.
people, I mean, I do think the Workday ecosystem is ahead of, you know, others as far as just people that with the technology skills and things like
Yeah.
that. But a lot of times people are using AI just as asking questions, you know, like Google. They're using it for that. And they're believing what
Yes.
is returned. So
Yes.
that's not even being
Yep.
prompted, you know, right. And not knowing that it's a hallucination or, you know, any
Yeah.
of these things. So
Yes.
I, I don't know. It's going to be a pendulum, like everybody adopts it. And then there's going to be all this junk that happens and then it'll come back and then it'll, you know, kind of do that back and
It
forth. I
will.
think, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yep.
But
It's going to. Because I think we've seen that
true.
pattern with all technology, right? Like the new cool thing comes out, everyone wants it, and then it swings back. You know, and AI is in its moment right
yeah.
now, and it is, you know, it has the ability to do really incredible things for organizations, for you in your personal life, but you have to know how to leverage it and not over leverage it. Like the hallucinations are huge. You have to be able to recognize those. But something new is going to come along. Eventually, something is going to come along that disrupts AI. And you know, hopefully, we all know what it is, so
There
we
we
can buy
go.
the stock to make the millions.
It is. I just,
Yeah.
as you were
So
saying that, I mean, I'm
That's
thinking, and I love that you guys did the hackathon. Um, uh, I'm thinking of some
yeah.
apps that people have created, even in the ecosystem that I've seen that they shared on LinkedIn. I know I had someone reach out to
It's
me. He had
phenomenal.
created this whole resume writing interview thing, whatever, for his college
Yeah.
daughter, and built it in Lovable. There's
Yeah.
someone else that she had shared. She built. She likes to cook, and she ended up building, some kind of
Yes.
recipe thing again with Lovable. Everybody's loving Lovable. But so it is kind of
Yeah.
fun to see outside of work, all the ways that people are using it,
It
and
is.
stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all
Absolutely.
right, well, let's talk one thing Workday, because obviously, I guess we got to talk a little bit about
Okay.
that.
Yep.
But all right, so I know that you successfully led your group moving to the public cloud recently or last year, and
We
you
did.
shared
Yes.
all
Yes.
so much knowledge and tips and things like that with our Workday Application Executive Network. So thank you for that. And I mean, what impressed me so the most probably was that you guys did it on your own without any third party help. So,
Right.
Yep.
what even made you kind of go, all right, let's see if we can do this on our own? Kind of what did that look like?
Yeah, for me, I think part of it is I just know how incredible my team is, and I knew we can handle it. I know every leader probably brags about their team, and if they don't, they should. But I just have a phenomenal group of technologists that work on my team. They are just some of the best engineers that I have ever worked with, and I just knew they have the skill and the
Mhm.
capability to do it.
Mhm.
And once we looked at like what it really entailed, because what it was is updating, your system with URLs, right? And making sure you knew you had the correct URLs and, the right communication plan and the right timing. And I just knew my team could do it. Like that, I never had a doubt in my mind that they wouldn't be able to do it with enough. Um, we had enough time. We knew what would happen, and we trusted Workday. Like we weren't the first out of the gates. Like we purposely were not the first out of the gates. We were, I don't know what number, we were that moved, but we knew companies had gone before us. We had to wait for Workday to, one of the SKUs we had couldn't move until a certain point. I want to say it was payroll. I forget exactly, but we had to wait. So we knew there were people who had gone before us and they had been successful. And I said, why wouldn't we be? We've been successful at every other thing that we have deployed. Like, why would this be different? And that's why we did it. Like, we just built it into our team's capacity of when we wanted to do it. I trusted the people on my team who did it, and I knew they would be really
Love
successful,
it.
and they were.
That's awesome.
It's amazing.
Um,
Yeah.
what is it that would,
Well,
oh, I'm sorry, go, Nikki.
no, I was just going to say. I mean, it's so clear how you entrust your people. I mean, you are director of
Hmm.
people tech, and
Yeah,
but again, you've been in the ecosystem for a long time. So, just
yeah,
curious how you've evolved as a leader over these years to kind of keep your game to where it needs to be
yeah.
to kind of match what's happening out there in the ecosystem. How have you evolved as a creator, as a leader, to bring those people, around you up in their own career?
Yeah, I've had to there was definitely a moment probably 10 years ago where I realized I can either be a leader who tries to do it all and like hands in the system and do all the configuration, or be a leader who has the team of people who can do it and give them the runway to be able to do
Mhm.
it. I think for me, I have always had people who have been my leader who've just trusted me to do the thing, whatever that thing was. It was, Melissa, you go do this. I went, delivered it, and moved on. And I have just built that someone believing in me that way just resonates. So I wanted to make sure that my team knows that I trust them. Like I do. I want them, and I would hope that they would say that they know that even if they
Yeah.
Mhm.
make a mistake, it's not a big deal because people are going to make mistakes. And that is where you learn, right? You learn from, um, the thing that you break. Like, gosh, there was one time early in my career where I accidentally I'm not going to say the company, but I accidentally updated the location. I thought I was updating the location of just one business site. I ended up updating everybody's location. It was like it was my first year in Workday Consulting, and all of a sudden everyone had this like address in California, and I was like, what did I do? Like let me figure out what I did. And and it was like a payroll day. It was like this whole
Oh
thing.
gosh.
But I made the mistake. I talked to my manager. It wasn't a big deal. Like we corrected
All
it.
right.
I never did it again. But that's how you learn.
Failing forward.
And
Failing forward.
yeah,
That's
going
true.
forward, don't update the location. But that is like I just have always put a big belief in my team. I you know I just trust them. I just inherently trust people. And I have to date never have
Oh,
had
nice.
anyone break that trust. I've been very lucky with the teams that I've had, and they've always been very committed to the task at hand. And I like to think it's because I lead very empathetically. I really want people to know
Oh,
I care
nice.
about them as a person.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to make hard business decisions, and those are the moments that are really awful, right? But for the vast majority of the time, it is, understanding at the core that they are humans with lives and things that happen that impact them. And I want them to know that I trust them.
Right.
We're all adults here. Like, at
Yeah.
the end of the day, we're all adults. Like, just do your job, do your thing. And, that's what I ask of you. And I want them to know, like, they just have that it's a buzzword, but like that psychological safety. Like, I want them to know that I will carry the burden for them, that they don't have to worry about it.
Wow.
And if you fail, just let me know and we can figure it out. It's not a big deal,
I mean, that's
so
so powerful. And
Yeah, I was going to ask you that
you
'cause
would think that that
you,
would just be kind of
yeah,
a normal approach that most people would take, but it's not.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
so that
it's
just says
not.
a lot about
Yeah.
you and everything.
yeah. Because I know you
Yeah.
do post about leading with empathy and being
Mm-hmm.
transparent, and obviously that
Yeah.
makes your team more comfortable to explore new things and try new things. So
Yeah.
it's just a positive experience all around. I think that is so important to have a leader or a
Yeah.
manager that trusts you and will catch you
Mm-hmm.
if update
Yes.
everybody's location to one
Yeah.
state. I think it allows you to have the
Yeah.
confidence to grow in your career too. So
It
that's
does.
Or we all
piggybacking
moved to
off
Yeah.
that.
California. So there.
It does. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Oh my gosh, it was such like a panic moment for like 30 minutes. I was like, wow. But no, I mean, I would hope I hope my team knows, and I think they do, but how much I care for them, not only as individuals, but about their careers and about developing them and, building the space so that they can learn new things. And it's throughout my career, I've just had the pleasure of leading these really great teams, whether they're large teams or small teams, but each one of them just has spoken to me in a different way, and it's helped me grow as a leader, where I know I don't have to do all the things because I have the team who can do it, and that allows me to do other things.
You realize you just
So
guaranteed that the next time you post a job that you're going to get 10 million applications because people
I hope so, because it's a great
people are
team.
going to be
Well,
like, I want to
you
hire
may
her on her
already be
team.
So
getting 400
yeah,
applications. It's like you may already be
I
getting
hope so.
400, but now it's going to probably bump
We
up to
Yeah.
4,000 because everybody wants Melissa as their leader. So,
Oh, I that would be amazing. That would
That's
be incredible.
awesome.
So
Um, I don't know. I was just go ahead, Nikki. I know you had another one in here you wanted to ask.
oh no, no, I was just there's so many different paths we can go down here. But I was going to say, kind of going back to that longevity. Folks that have been
mhm.
in this for a while. Again, I hate to use the word, maybe a little bored. How can they
Yeah.
upskill? I mean, I know you mentioned maybe move out of Workday, but let's just say they can't.
Yeah.
Workday is where they need to
Mhm.
be and where they need to play for a while. What advice, other than maybe moving out of a different technology, and even if it's outside of, to kind of keep that
Yeah.
motivation going and keep that upskilling going, What piece of advice did you have?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say I can understand why people think they're bored within Workday. I've had those moments too. And that's because you're probably doing the same thing year over year. Maybe you're the recruiting person or the advanced comp person, and that's all you do. But Workday has how many different modules?
Mm-hmm.
Like go learn a new module. Go figure out how payroll works. Go figure out how to build an I don't know, an extend app. Go embrace everything that Workday can offer you so that you don't feel bored or stuck. And I think it's important to have a very healthy, I sort of consider it work life integration, but like a work life balance. Like there are things that I do outside of work that fill my cup up too. You know, I mentioned like I love jigsaw puzzles. I love to read. So I don't know if I love to buy books more than I love reading, but like both of those are sort of some hobbies that I have. Um, but be of service to others. Like find something that you value that's important to you and go find an organization where you can be of service. And that just fills you up in a different way where maybe you are stuck in your career, but find a path somewhere else that fulfills you if you need to. Because sometimes, I know there are people out there who just do a job because it's a job because they have to pay the bills. Not everyone is lucky to be in a career that they love. Sometimes you
Right.
just have to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That I mean the vast I think probably like maybe a vast majority of people are like that. And that's great. Like that's what you have to do. Find other ways to fill yourself up. Fill your soul with something you love, and I think that becomes less
No,
of a
I like
problem.
that. How
Nice.
would someone
Nice.
do that though? So many times, you're out somewhere and it's like, what do you do? Well, I'm a workday, whatever, workday professional. I spent,
Mhm.
I own a recruiting company, and we define ourselves
Yeah.
just with the
Yeah.
job that we have, as opposed to,
Yeah.
you- and not that that's maybe even a bad example, but how do we get it, when our job does take so much of our life? How and you've done a really
Mhm.
good job. You do so many other things, and you share that, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. I mean, you're starting to write about it now
Mhm.
too. So what
Yes.
is
Yeah.
it that someone could do to kind of add that, and it not be this big monumental lift for them to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And I think there's one thing. I don't have children to occupy my time outside of work. Now I have dogs, and they're time consuming, but
Five.
not like
Five.
five dogs. Yeah, my babies. But I may have maybe a little bit more time than say a working mom or a working dad. But find that fulfillment however you can, whether it is going to church or going to a bookstore or going having coffee with a friend. You have to find those pockets. Like you cannot just be work, 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 work. I was a work, work, work person. I had so many people tell me, Melissa, you're just working too much, you're working too long. But I loved what I did, so
That's
it didn't
good.
ever feel like work. And then the our good friend the pandemic hit. Can we talk about the pandemic? I don't know if some
Absolutely.
I
It's a
know like
story.
sometimes you can and you can't.
Yes.
Um, and I was in the middle of a huge divestiture, but I just like I needed a little bit more. And one day I randomly was on Reddit and someone posted a picture in like the dog group that said, I just transported this dog from like California to Oregon. And I said, what is transporting? And that was the moment that kicked off this transporting that I do on the weekends. That has been the most
Oh,
fulfilling thing in my life. I love it.
Nice.
I love bringing a dog from point A to point B and knowing it is going. I'm going to get emotional. Knowing it is going to a new beginning. It came from a really bad situation and it's going to a
love
good
it.
situation. And that just is so, it just is so fulfilling. So you have to find the thing that fulfills you. whatever it is you love to do, just figure out how to find it there. Look on Reddit for things. Ask ChatGPT. Like now
Yeah,
we have AI. AI will tell you, but you just have to find the thing that will fulfill you. Life is too short and too
I love
precious
that.
not to.
wow, that
And
is
you have to make it
powerful.
a
That's the thing, is
priority.
making it a
So
priority. I mean, so many times, like, I know I
you
should.
have to make it a
And,
priority.
I know I've shared
Yeah.
that even with some of the things
Yeah.
that we're implementing, have implemented, and that we're implementing with, even with Corner Office, it was just stopping and going, I've done this
Yeah.
for so long. What do I really enjoy doing? And how can I
Yes.
take what I do for
Yes.
work and what I enjoy
Yeah.
doing and build from that? But if I had not
Yes.
just
Yep.
stopped and, gone through that, I think, um,
Yeah,
You have to. You have to have. I know I used reckoning with Workday, but you have to have that reckoning with yourself too. Like, what is it, you know? Okay, maybe your job is just a job, but like, what is it you like to do? And figure out how to make that work for you, whether it's through a paid opportunity or just volunteering or just find it. Like, you take the moment, step back, stop doom scrolling, step back and think, what,
yeah.
what is it that I love to do? And it's
yeah.
there. You just have to unleash it.
Reckoning's going to
So,
be in the
Well,
title of
now
this
I'm going to
podcast,
piggyback
but
off
somewhere.
that. I know.
oh
I
no,
have a feeling that that may come up in a question a little bit
it's a
later.
word of the day. So yeah,
Well, and I was just going to chime in, Melissa, because something that you've been really getting into, that Substack, is an analog heart. That is what you've been putting out.
yes,
So, and you just, I mean, you're a great writer. I mean, that comes, is that, oh,
thank you.
however, is that something that you chose to do to kind of break away a little bit from career or work mode, and kind of put yourself in a different place? How did that come about?
Yeah, oh,
That's
sorry, my
good.
dogs are
They're
barking.
part
Hold
of it.
on, hold on. Time out, Norman.
See,
Yeah,
Melissa really has 5 dogs. That's
they're here.
not made up.
There's a squirrel or something in the yard that they're very focused on at the moment. So the analog cart, yes. So that is a recent creation of mine. I am someone who needs a creative outlet. I have a closet full of paintings that I have created because I love to
Nice.
paint. I mentioned I read and do jigsaw puzzles. I journal a lot. I have a stack of journals where I've just written down probably everything that I thought about over the course of my life. And um, on the LinkedIn posts, because I do a lot of LinkedIn posts, I've had a number of people who just text me who said, I really love what you have to say. Can you do this more? And I've been thinking about it, and I want to do it more, but it's not always about work. Sometimes it is about
Yeah.
the dogs. Sometimes it is about a book I read or music that I've listened to. I'm still trying to figure out Substack. It's a very interesting platform. You're supposed to really engage with it daily for I guess certain reasons, but I just can't. I just don't have that much time. But
Mm-hmm.
I just have things to say, and people seem to want to connect with it. So I'm just giving it a shot to see where it
Yeah.
goes. I may make it private next week, you know. But even this weekend, I got a text from someone I worked with a number of years ago, and he's like, "I loved your post about." I think it was probably about the dogs, because that's the center of my world. But he's like, "I really loved what you wrote about the dogs. Thank you for sharing that. I
Um,
hope you write more."
Yeah.
And so to know, even that it touches one person, I'm gonna just keep trying to do it when I can and when it makes sense.
Yeah. We talk about how valuable stories are, and it also makes you authentic, right? And real,
Yeah.
which, again, in a world of AI, I mean, having
How do
that
you know?
connection, a
Yeah.
real connection, or something that just, you're relatable, right? It also makes you a
Yes.
powerful
Yeah.
leader as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that just flows naturally. Your posts, your comments, and we tell folks to do that as well. And that is a great
Hmm.
outlet, as you're saying. Figure something out, something creative. You don't have to post about Workday all the time or career all the
Yep.
time. But yeah, I've been reading it. I've been following you, and
I
Oh,
subscribe.
thank you.
definitely a natural storyteller.
Oh, well, I
And we'll
appreciate
definitely share the
it.
link in this too.
Yeah,
So
I'm yeah, please
It's
please
great.
do. I have been I have no desire to be a content creator. I think that is just a level of stress do not want in my life. But I have been thinking about like what content do I want to put out there and like how to schedule it slightly. Like, maybe one day it is about a book I read, like maybe some leadership book. And the next day it's about, I don't know, some observation I had of a hawk in the sky. I don't know. But, so I'm trying to think about how to commit myself to, leaning into this habit, like in leaning into this hobby, because I do love it. I really just love late at night, sort of when the day is done, the dogs are asleep. I love just to sit on my laptop
Nice.
and just write things
Well, we're
out. So,
multidimensional
Yeah,
people, right?
it's a
And
good
just as we
release.
said earlier, it's not all about work.
yeah,
And you get your energy with all this
it's not.
creative
Yeah.
stuff that you do. I'm expecting to see pictures of
Yes.
art at some point, in this, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
but
share
I
some.
mean that's
Yep.
and that fuels you, which then impacts your job, and the work that you do. It impacts your team, and
It
it's
does.
it's
Yeah.
just this ripple effect,
Yeah.
through everything. So
Exactly.
It is. It
Exactly.
is. Yeah. And it's, a lot of times it helps me think through work things too. Like I could be sitting there just doing some random painting, and they're not good paintings. Like I would never like, I mean I like my mom liked them, um but it helps me, like it just takes me out of the day to day, and it gives my
yep,
mind a chance to relax. And that's when I have found in those moments, that's when I think of the thing I need to do.
Yep.
I used to, when I was doing Workday Consultant, I would wake up in the middle of the night because and that's when like solutions would come to me. It was the weirdest thing, but it's because I was so relaxed and so out of the moment. And, things like painting or doing jigsaw puzzles, it just allows me to disconnect from things and focus on, just sort of doing that
absolutely.
activity.
That's so funny that you mentioned that with the
Yeah.
consulting
Yeah.
thing. I literally have a playlist I call 30,000 feet.
Yeah.
It's 30,000 feet for when I was a road warrior,
Oh,
because that's where when I would be up there
yeah.
and listening to music, and that's when I would come up with
Yes.
ideas. But it was relaxed.
Yes.
It
Yes.
probably didn't happen on the way. It was
Yeah.
when I was coming home on a Thursday evening, but it
Yeah.
was. And so that stayed with me all these years and created, like
Yeah.
I said, a playlist that's 30,000 foot,
Yeah.
30,000 feet playlist.
Yeah.
But
I
it
love
does do
that.
that what's yours, Nikki? You have something like that?
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say that I think sometimes you do have to disconnect to reconnect,
Hmm.
and whatever that gap is or whatever that thing is. I don't know. I'm a music person, and before, I was a communications major. I wanted to be the DJ, which is
Oh, I love it.
takes us to a segue to something in just a few minutes. But so for me, it's creating my Spotify playlists and sharing them with friends, and then you start going down the rabbit hole of, you like this artist, well, check out this artist, and then next thing you know, it's 4 hours that you discover new music and you're
Yes.
sharing it with people. And again, you just have different playlists for different mindsets, and it's fun. So
Hmm.
for me, definitely, I am not a painter. takes takes me about 15 minutes to read 4 pages because I'm focused on something else. So not an
Yeah.
avid reader, but yeah, for me, it's I think I'm in my zone when I
I love it.
DJ, as it used to be called, DJ Slick
Oh
Nick.
my gosh.
Uh, would
DJ Slick Nick. I
DJ
like it.
Slick
I
Nick,
love it.
yes. And to this day, my brothers and nephews, Aunt Slick, so it caught on.
Oh, I
So you're going to
love
notice, when
it.
you're going to get a
You're
notification
gonna
that
have to share
Nikki's
a
changed her
Spotify
LinkedIn
check.
profile, and it have in quotes Slick Nick.
Right.
You should. That's so awesome. That's so awesome.
Well,
I never would
Yes.
have thought that. So,
Yes.
but
Yes.
but that's it. Like that's what's so important is like the disconnect, right? We are in such a connected world.
Yeah.
Like you cannot go anywhere without some sort
right.
of noise interrupting you at any given time.
Yeah.
In those moments, my mother always like jokes when she comes to my house. She's like, "Why is your house so quiet?" Because I never have a TV on, I never have the radio on. But it's
Yes.
like in those quiet moments, that's where things are allowed to just be released,
Yeah.
whether it's a work issue or a life issue or just whatever, like that creativity. But there's so much noise out there. Like between the pings on the phone and
Mm-hmm.
Slack and Zoom and, just finding that creative space. So
Agreed.
next time I need a Slicknick Spotify.
Just ping me. Just tell me what kind of
I
mood you're
will.
going for or where you're at, and I can come up with
All
some
right.
Nikki may
I
songs
have
for
to
love
you.
it.
like,
I love it. I also want the
what is it
30,000
Obama
foot.
does?
Yeah.
Doesn't Obama put out a playlist that he has? So there you go,
He
Nikki.
does at the end of the year. Yes.
Yes,
So
Yes.
he did not call me, but if former President Barack Obama needs a playlist, I can
exactly.
help him out.
I love
So,
it.
or
Yes. You
Michelle,
should do
just
it.
call me. Call
You
me
should do
now.
it.
Right, right.
Me too.
He was great
Exactly.
at Rising.
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
All right. So
Yes,
is it that time?
Yeah, she was. Yeah.
Barrel rush?
it is. Are you giving
Okay. All
little
right. So
hints
Oh,
for
we
the
call this
barrel
our
rush?
barrel
Barrel
rush round.
rush.
So this is our fast questions.
okay.
You're in the barrel. The whole Workday wave. You're in the barrel. You're riding it out. So
Yeah.
it's kind of first thing in your mind when we ask a question. So I think I'm starting it
Okay.
off.
I
Okay.
think you're.
So
Yes, you
you
are.
obviously you've been in the
Okay.
ecosystem for a very long time. What is one thing you genuinely love about the ecosystem? Yes.
The people.
Okay. That no brainer
Boom.
on that one. I would agree 100%. Um,
Yeah.
okay, a personal like a habit or mindset since we kind of been talking about this that you protect no matter how busy or how noisy things get. What is that or those things?
I protect the 7 to 9 p.m. schedule where I am just sitting there drinking a cup of tea and hanging out on the
Nice.
couch with my dogs and just absorbing their love
PM,
Oh,
for the day.
that's
AM.
awesome.
PM. Okay, I'm just making sure.
PM, PM, PM. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We are up and at
Okay,
it
okay.
at
I was like,
5
wait,
a.m.
wait,
and
wait.
going until about 7. So,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah.
You are a book person, and I know
Yep.
that you mentioned the one earlier.
Yes.
Best book you read 2025 and why?
2025 and why? Oh gosh, Strong
Ah,
Ground by Brene Brown. That book,
I remember your post on. You
phenomenal,
posted the heck out of that.
phenomenal.
You.
Yeah, I loved everything that book had to say. Um, and it just reinforced so many things that I have been thinking. I went out and bought, it was the first book of hers
oh,
I've actually read, surprisingly. And I went
oh, I
out and
love
bought
it.
all of her other books because I just loved it so much.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So posts coming on those soon.
Ooh, I can't
So
wait to see
I'm
that.
working my way
I
through
love
them,
it.
but
Now
yeah,
I'm like literally as you were saying that, I'm
yeah.
picturing everybody going, "Where is my Brene Brown book from
Yeah,
Riley?"
from
Yeah,
Rising. Still in the
yeah,
backpack.
They're
I
pulling it
grabbed
out of
my
the
desk with
backpack
it.
and
Yeah,
Some
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, some people don't
yeah,
even realize it's in the backpack that they got it right. They haven't
yeah,
even opened up the
yeah,
backpack
yeah,
because that's
yeah,
funny. All right.
yeah. I
Well,
will say the best fiction book I read all year was it's a cozy little magic book called The Spell Shop. And it's just enough romance. It's just enough like talking plants. It was just a
oh,
very
okay.
relaxing book. So, but that's
nice,
the
All right,
best
I'm
fiction book.
making
So,
notes.
nice. Yep.
yes, yep.
All right. So I'm up with the last two questions here, and I'm going to adjust something now
Okay.
that we know that you are an artiste. So if you can
Oh, jeez.
only keep one, would it be a puzzle, a book, or a paintbrush?
Oh, a book, hands down,
Okay.
hands down. Yep.
Kind of thinking that, but
Yeah.
okay. No right or
Yep.
wrong answer. Okay. All right. And
No,
so
definitely, definitely a book.
so now that you know DJ, Slick Nick. So here's my
Hmm.
my question. So what is your go-to song when you need a little pump up, a little extra mo, or just having a rough day? What is that song that you always go to?
So there's like five.
Wait,
All right, two
instead of
songs.
what's
Two
the song, what's the
songs.
playlist?
I'm gonna give you three. Can I give you three? Yeah. Okay, so the first
Uh,
is
good one.
Closer to Fine by the Indigo Girls.
Nice.
Yep, that is always blaring out my radio whenever I've had a rough day. Um, I also love Bartender by Dave Matthews Band. I am a teenager of the 1990s and I just love everything 1990s. That's always on the playlist. And then the third will be Jolene by Ray
Oh,
LaMontagne. It's
Oh
just a
yeah,
beautiful,
I like
it's a
Ray.
beautiful, just indie sort of broken heart love song.
Yeah.
And I'm a very happy person, but I tend to listen to
I
very sad
love
songs
it.
for some
Those are
reason.
all
Oh
So
good.
wow. Yeah. No, that's
yeah,
Yes,
Yeah,
Ray is pretty deep. He is
he
soulful.
is.
I've seen him twice in
Yes.
concert, but my goodness, what a
Oh, isn't he
voice!
so good?
He's
What a
not going to
voice!
Yes.
talk.
So good.
See, now we could spend a whole nother hour in music, but we're not going to
I'm
do
in
that.
on
I know.
this.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
But those
Yeah,
are great
he
ones,
is not.
Melissa. Those
Really,
are
really
great.
good.
Thank you. Thank
Well,
you.
you made it through. You made it
Awesome.
through the barrel rush round. So
Oh,
Yeah,
awesome.
congratulations.
Awesome. Yeah, those weren't
yeah, little
hard
hang
at all.
loose.
So, yay.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, I have to personally
That's awesome.
say, we've been connected for such a long time, and being able to connect with you, with obviously the Application Executive Network and this, and just getting to know you more. This is what this is all about. It's just so much fun, and I've just really, really
Yeah.
enjoyed it. And I do. I love the posts that you share and the things that you share, and you can feel the enthusiasm
Thank you.
with that. So thank you for doing that. Keep on doing it, and
Yeah.
whether it's engagement or not, you're still
I
impacting
will.
people. And I think that's one thing. You just, like you said, that person that,
Thank you.
Yeah.
thanked you for sharing the thing. They may not have engaged, but that's not what it's about. Um, but I've thoroughly enjoyed
Yeah.
this. And yes, I do
Absolutely.
think that the people in the ecosystem, that is one of the things that just makes us so different. Uh, so thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing your
Agreed.
knowledge
Thanks,
and all
Melissa.
that. And it's just
And
been
your
so much fun getting
My
to know
energy
you.
pleasure. Yeah.
and all the
Yeah.
goodies that
What'd you
come
say,
with it.
Nikki?
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
That was
So, oh, go
awesome.
ahead, Nikki. What did you say?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was
Oh, I
just.
said, I think I cut you off. What
Oh,
did you
no,
say?
I was just saying thanks for being on the podcast and bringing the positive energy, and it obviously exudes, and people are comfortable with that. So you as a leader, you as a volunteer, the dogs, it just
Oh,
I
thanks.
think it all encompasses and it makes you where you are today, and both in and out of your career, a positive, really positive role model. So thank you for being
Thank
here
you.
and
Thank
sharing that.
you.
If you got real value out of this episode, like it, follow the show, and share it with one Workday leader who needs it. And for more career conversations and insights like this, make sure you subscribe to The Signal on WD Beacon. Thanks again for listening to another episode of Wavemakers.